Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the northwest corner of the map playing in red, we've got How Could You Do This To Me, playing as the Byzantines. And his opponent in the southeast playing in blue. We've got Demu representing Team Liquid playing as the Jushi's Legacy. Welcome everyone to Golden Pip, that is your map for today. 4. The new Sultans Ascend DLC, 2 civilizations, brand new ones, bringing you great new games, new strategies, new discussion points, new things to talk about. And I've got lots to talk about this map, especially the Byzantines. Look, I know a lot of people have given Byzantines a bad rap. I actually don't think they're that underpowered. Like maybe, okay, if you compare them to maybe Jushi's Legacy, you compare them to possibly, in some ways, Jeanne d'Arc. Yeah, okay, some ways. But I think it's more about figuring out how the civilization plays. We've seen a lot of games recently where the Byzantines do incredibly well in the late game. But also particularly on this map, Golden Pit, you might be thinking, well, the mid-map objective is gold. But don't forget the Byzantines. They've got a little cheeky little mechanic in them. They've got olive oil, which they can sometimes rely on quite heavily depending on the landmarks you choose. You can go for the Ozutsu, late game. You don't have to spend a single bit of gold on that. It does mean the Byzantines necessarily don't have to focus too much in the middle, although it'll probably be a good idea because you don't want to give that up for your opponent. Now, How Could You Do This To Me is our very well-known and loved Crackety here. And it's going to be going up against Demu. Very strong Chinese player. We obviously know... To be fair, actually, we know the Crackety and Demu have been kind of Chinese enjoyers before this most recent patch. Jushi Legacy, obviously closer to the Chinese than the Byzantines. I think Jushi Legacy is a very interesting civilization. Lots of things going for them. An incredibly strong economic powerhouse, even though their Song dynasty is a little bit different than the Chinese. The Song dynasty for the Jushi Legacy gives them cheaper buildings in terms of wood cost, which is incredibly scalable, especially when you think about farms. The kind of crazy thing about Jushi Legacy I often see, you give it like 25 minutes, you may be thinking about farming transition, and all of a sudden, poof, there's like 50 farms came out of nowhere. Super cheap. And super strong. Not to mention the meditation gardens. What do we say about this? This is a great landmark for Jushi Legacy. It's incredibly powerful in the early game. Gives them free resources, of course, passively, depending where you place it. And well, Demu is going to get a lot of resources from this, that's for sure. Going to get this whole gold, decent amount of wood, and decent amount of food as well. We'll check on it as time goes on and see how much he gets. Now, I'd say generally, the one thing I'd say about the Byzantines is kind of difficult with them. They do feel a little bit unidimensional, like definitely not as flexible as, say, Jushi Legacy. Well, wait a minute. Hold the phone. Well, I take that back. I mean, we've never seen this before. Actually, wait. If he's going to build a cistern, that's kind of crazy. Because just bear in mind the cistern gives you access to Akratoi. Makes his villager difficult to kill. More importantly, he's going to get an outpost. And this is actually quite a nice play. I like this play because you've got to punish the Jushi Legacy, right? The economy is so strong. And how this does that is actually it will be disrupting the amount of resources coming in. So the way to kind of punish this is to get units around it, military units, to try and push that back. He's invested in an early barracks with the cistern, and they're coming out with spearmen. So we'll be getting a nice outpost, and this is great, by the way, because we're going to be denying the wood and the gold. Now, we did have enough gold, of course, for that age up to get to that landmark. But, you know, it pressures things, right? It's going to make things messy, which is sometimes the way you feel like you kind of have to play against Jushi Legacy. The economy is so strong, you just can't let them have a free boom. Or you can't let them breathe, to be honest. Let them breathe. They'll make you pay for it. Going out to stone out Demu. I wonder what the play is here. Will he stick with the game plan with a second town centre despite this aggression? I'm not so sure. It feels like he has to address this. Because one outpost is bad, especially when it's on your gold and your wood, but if Crackety scales into a second outpost, things could get a little bit out of hand. Now, behind this Crackety, though, of course, still in the Dark Age, makes things tricky for him. As I say that, it does drop the Imperial Hippodrome, and I love this play, by the way. It really supplements the initial aggression. You get cavalry units, obviously horsemen, incredibly powerful, but not only that, if he does get the Expilatores upgrade for the horsemen, giving them an additional +2 damage against villagers, and also 20 gold per villager that he can kill, so it's definitely a good investment, or incentive, as well, if he can get some villager kills. Not to mention the triumph ability that if he does die with horsemen, it'll increase their attack damage, and also the movement speed, but also help them restore their health. So I certainly love this way to play as the Byzantines. I did say they're a bit more unidimensional, but they do have this initial aggression in them, which I think, obviously, Crackety is putting to really good effect at this point. Yeah, he's limited to to... I mean, you can just factor in, just imagine. Imagine if this wasn't under pressure. Imagine how many resources you'd be getting. Now, bearing in mind that it takes about a villager 1 minute to gather 40 resources, generally give or take, depending on the resource. And you can see there's equivalent of a good, like, I guess, 2 villagers at the moment, but going to get an outpost there quickly, which should go up quickly because obviously the Jushi Legacy villagers do build faster. The 2 Limitani pressured that a little bit. They do have to back off, though. And Krakody now does get to that feudal age, and the Jiangnang Tower going to be built by Demu to get that Song Dynasty, which, by the way, is where things get really out of hand for Jushi Legacy. And bear in mind as well, the Tang Dynasty, by the way, it's different for Jushi Legacy. They get the tech up to the next stage even cheaper. So, yeah, it's kind of a crack civilization, I've got to say. I mean, I don't know how else to phrase it or what else to say about it. It is a very strong civilization. Horsemen, though, riding out for the Byzantines. Going to be looking to do some extra damage, maybe on that wood line. But second town center, this gives you the vibes of the old Chinese, right? Playing this very condensed economy, getting second town center right close to home, making it almost impossible for Krakody to do significant damage. Because if he dives, okay, he's got Expilatores, he's got the Triumph ability. It's 2 town centers he's going up against with arrow slits in placement. Or hand cannon slits in placement, I should say. Makes things very challenging. I love the thought and love the craft of ideas here for the Byzantines, but it looks challenging. Going out to stone. Wait, is he going to go for third town center demo? This is super, super greedy, but he might just get away with it. Because he's probably not... I mean, to be fair, Byzantines aren't the most super aggressive civilization in the feudal age, but... he might be able to get an outpost on this woodline. If he does, that makes things a bit challenging, but we shall see. Ultimately, 1 villager versus 6 Jushi Legacy villagers building. Be fine. Is he actually... He's going for a third town center. Maybe on this woodline, this actually be a decent spot for it, to be fair. Protect that woodline quite nicely. Does have the gold situation to deal with, though. Maybe to go... Yeah, I think he's going for the third town center on the... maybe not. I had a thought he might be going for the gold, but it's a bit exposed, right? The Limitano there are waiting, and the horsemen too. And Krakody's aware of that situation, right? You can see a very purposeful placement of his units, just to try and deny the gold as much as he can. Has actually upgraded the outpost as well on there to protect that gold position. Now, what this does mean is that Demu's going to have to rely on a very heavily based, essentially non-gold units, which are not necessarily a problem. And he does have the Imperial Official, which can gather gold. That Meditation Gardens, by the way, this outpost has done a lot of work. It's really inhibited the ability for Jushi Legacy to get maximum output from this. I gotta say though, maybe it needs to be still 30 resources per minute. That's like 4 villages. Now, yeah, about 3 villages. It's kind of bonkers. And speaking of villages, he is up by 9. But I like this suffocation for the Byzantines. He's actually getting another outpost on that gold. It's a bit tricky though, right? Because he's going to be up against 3 town center. I mean, it could be a scenario where he's actually going to try and get some raiding here. He might get a village if he body blocks. Doesn't quite get one just yet. He does get one. And he might get another. Nope, don't want to be doing that. Does get the Expilatores there. 20 gold, 40 gold in total by killing those 2 villagers. I mean, ultimately, this could be a villager early challenge. I mean, he's not going to get gold units, although he's going to get a couple of Chukanu somehow. I guess the Imperial officials actually kind of bail him out a little bit here, Demu. Because you can imagine, like, he wouldn't have any gold at all without those units. Now, bear in mind, he will be able to get arrow slits and also potentially a mangonel placement in the castle age, which probably seems like a far away thought for the Byzantines. But maybe not as far as away a thought as Demu's Jushi's legacy, because ultimately, you know, Krakody does have access to gold. Getting that water level 2 now will be boosting up the villager gathering rate somewhat. Might be running out of berries though. This is where things come a little bit tricky for the Byzantines, because he's going to... I mean, one way he will be able to access deer camps, right? That's the kind of key bit of detail. Like, he'll be able to get the free food off the map, and it's kind of important he does, because he can't... If he wants to keep up this pressure, which he kind of has to, he can't afford to go for a farming transition now, or olive grove transition. It'd be too oppressive on the economy. 5 units now garrisoned inside that outpost. He'll be pushing out a lot of those units back that Demu has. Demu's going to have to try and get siege engineering, maybe a couple of rams possibly. And here come the farms. I told you, like, it just comes out of nowhere almost. But to be fair, it does have a lot of villages on wood. Now the real question is, where does the Byzantines go from here? Krakody going out to deer camp, that's where he's going for starters. Does he opt to go for the castle age? I'm not so sure. It's really hard to think of a follow-up here because he's kind of put a lot of pressure. Now, when you do pressurize your opponent, you've got two options behind that. You either boom in terms of villagers, or you tech up and be more aggressive and try and finish the game. It feels like almost he's going for the latter. Committing to another stable, going to be pumping out more units. Question is whether he'll be able to do critical damage whilst he's still in the feudal age. It does feel a little bit difficult in the most recent patch to kill people in the feudal age. You need a lot of rams. You need a lot of siege. And the really hard part is dealing with these three town centers so close to each other. As soon as you get close to it, you're under trouble. But certainly, an entertaining game so far in Age of Empires, and whilst we are waiting for something to really kick off, I'd like to say a really big thank you for everyone supporting the channel, whether it be on YouTube or Twitch. It's very, very much appreciated. In fact, we actually see some subs coming in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The Hacken and also Axkilar, I really appreciate that support. Very, very kind of you guys. In the north, looks like this is where Byzantines are looking to try and pressurize, get a couple more villagers garrisoned inside the well, not villagers, but units garrisoned inside the outpost. Has access to longbowmen, by the way. That telegraphs the fact they went for the Western mercenary contract. Be using that olive oil to good use. Does try and dive in a little bit with another couple of horsemen. But this is challenging for Kraken, I've got to say. I'm going to try and torch that down now. That has been boosted up, by the way. The upgraded outpost will take some time to burn through, and Demu feels like he's important to do that. He should clean up all the units, and this is where it becomes a little bit tricky for Kraken because he's matched in terms of unit numbers. Going to raid on the south. Going to kill a couple of villagers. Demu hasn't reacted, by the way. That's kind of rough. Oof, that's a lot of villagers going down there on that spot. Don't forget, every villager killed, the Byzantines will get an extra 20 gold. That outpost still on half health, but, I mean, does he have any villagers around? Because that'd be incredible to repair that. Horseman going to dive on the Chukunu, but Chukunu in good numbers uses another bit of the triumph ability, healing up those horsemen, making them a little bit stronger and constantly raiding in the south. There's a couple of spearmen, though, for Demu. But again, these horsemen getting great value. He's actually starting to overrun, kind of surprising, actually. The triumph ability working wonders. Villagers and berries kind of exposed. Does have a decent number of Chukunu, but the concern for Krakeny, he's facing up against the 3-town-centered Jushi legacy. Whilst it's great he's getting villager kills, it's something he kind of has to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Plot Brick, appreciate the sub. Breaking the all-time record. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Horseman numbers actually starting to escalate pretty nicely here for the Byzantines. I gotta say, I like the strategy. Certainly a different way to play the Byzantines. Probably more unexpected as well. Something that's you got to keep an eye on. There's a lot of production builders coming out for Demu. This is the thing where it becomes a little bit difficult for Krakeny, right? Because just the sheer number of villagers will scale into economy, but at the moment he's being pressurized quite well. And if Demu can deal with this part in the north, he would unlock access to gold, and that's the key bit of detail. I think Krakeny's going to try and deny it as best as he can. He's going to need more spearmen here, Demu. I've got to say, heavy reliance on the horsemen. Does have longbowmen, that kind of adding that extra bit of range, which is kind of nice to have. I would love to see some more of that, but obviously it's quite hard limited on how much olive oil you can gather. Bearing in mind that you don't actually gather olive oil for deer camps, I don't believe. But of course there's a primary source of food for him right now. I think the really hurtful part for Krakeny in the situation and strategy is that the farming transition is going to have to come in at some point, or the olive grove transition. When it does, it might hit him hard. He's still got a couple of deer camps there, and the north as well. To be fair, if he plays it well, he could get those before he has to have a hard transition. But here we come, a big push here for Demu. He wants to get this claim back to this territory. We see the triumph ability coming for the horseman on the top of the hill. Demu going to push that back with spearmen, though. Doesn't really feel like there's enough longbowmen engaging here, Krakeny, which I'm not sure is ideal. Just too many spearmen. The longbowmen are going to try and take them out as best as they can, but the Chukunu back behind that. Once they take care of the horsemen, they're going to focus on those longbowmen. Don't forget the Chukunu do have a faster movement speed over the longbows, so could chase that down if he's caught out of position, but Krakeny can try and pull away those longbows, trying to focus on the spearmen as much as he possibly can. Going to try and distract a couple of horsemen and spearmen. Going to maybe look to take out a couple of villagers there, Krakeny, but his army numbers have been taking a bit of a denting. Fighting underneath the outpost, though, which will get some good DPS. Villagers coming out for Demu. He wants to take care of that outpost. He's had enough. And he's going to torch it down with a significant number of villagers. 50 odd. And by the way, that's actually not... I mean, yeah, he might get the outpost, but this is okay for Krakeny. Like, I think if you're Krakeny, you're quite happy about this, because this is a lot of idle time with a lot of villagers, and he's going to lose a couple as well. But the outpost has been taken down, and it's one stage back to winning this territory for Demu and the Jushi legacy. He's got to be careful though, Krakeny. He might be looking to be overrun soon. Don't forget that the Jushi legacy can produce incredibly fast if they decide to supervise their production buildings, of which he doesn't really need to. But plenty of them to continue spending those resources. Krakeny floating a bit of wood though, but he might be saving that up for the Olive Grove transition. Actually needing the space here more than anything, Demu. He needs the real estate. I gotta say though, if Demu can actually invest a couple of villages to wall this up, the trouble is, it's hard to get close with these longbowmen. Using the range here by Krakeny is a great micro there, just to use that range for the longbowmen. The Chukunu not investing into the gap close. Of course, if he did, he would lose some on the way. And the Spearman going to tank a little bit, but he's lost the numbers. The Chukunu are running into a couple of horsemen. It makes it difficult, right? With the lack of Spearmen, makes it always challenging for Demu to push out fully and commit fully. There comes a triumph ability once again with those horsemen for Krakeny. This is definitely the point of contention. The trouble for Krakeny is not being able to do any more damage to the eco. 20 villager lead at the moment for Demu. Oh, the farms are being vacated. Has to head south. Oh, that's actually kind of rough for Demu, because actually invest. I know it was a lot cheaper with the Song Dynasty, but he did invest in some farms there. It doesn't have all that much wood. Wait a minute. Krakeny is actually pushing this back somehow. It was kind of unanticipated. Pushback is coming in. The Chukunu numbers aren't huge just yet to be a huge problem to the horsemen. He's taking this fight. I mean, the triumph ability is just showing you how strong this can be. You'd love to see it. And the longbow is firing on the back line. Does have both... Wait. Krakeny doesn't actually have Steeled Arrow yet. That's actually kind of rough not to have that. I mean, he doesn't have huge numbers of longbowmen, but it certainly help. That would have actually helped with the outpost Arisless as well. In any case, back at home, Krakeny has got some Olive Grove transitions. He's got quite a bit of stone actually, so I wonder where he's going for a second town center. I like this play actually, by the way, because we mentioned it earlier in the game, in the chat rather, that okay, when you're pressurizing like this, you've got two options to do something behind it. It either gives you space to breathe, get the pocket economies and boom behind it, maybe add a second town center, or you're going to go for full age aggression. Now, Krakeny's done that. He's gone for a lot of aggression for quite some time now. And he's actually getting a lot of value still. It's kind of surprising. He's getting a second town center behind that. But the pressure that he's mounting at the moment will start to stifle a little bit as he does invest a lot more food into villagers. But the pressure that he's getting at the moment is actually really, really critical. Because he's doing infrastructure damage. Might possibly snipe an Imperial official and village as well. Triumph ability comes out once again, raiding on those farms. Demu, a bit slow to take them out, and he will lose a couple. That's a good bit of gold income coming in too. This is great play by Krakeny, coming in with some more horsemen. Wait, he's got a third town center as well? Holy moly. I love this play by Krakeny. In fact, I'm not sure how long that has been up there for, because there's so much action on the front. A massive farming transition coming in. It's just not letting him breathe, right? And he does have a lot of control on this right side now, Krakeny. Demu switches attention on the west side, but Krakeny will be aware of this, of course, with the outpost giving the vision. The outpost will go down now, though. But triple town center matching now for Krakeny. Keeps him in the game for now. It's still at a bit of a villager deficit, but it's caused a lot of damage. You can see the destruction value caused there, almost double. Starting to stabilize though. I love the addition of the outpost for Demu. I think that's the key step in actually defending this position. He needs to. There's a lot of farming transition. If he keeps it safe as well, it will put him in a great position. He does have access to this gold once again. This is where things become a little bit of a turning point in the game, I feel, because Demu has access to gold again, but Krakeny has access to a decent economy again. With the 3 town centers, things are slowly quieting down after a really action-packed opening. It's been a great one so far. Now bear in mind, these two players do actually stream live on Twitch, so it's definitely worth checking them out. Krakeny here and Demu. I'm sure you're aware of the names. If you want to see some more mayhem like this, it's probably the best place to be. Large number of horsemen. I kind of like this actually, because there's actually a tendency that Demu and Jushi Legacy generally tend to commit a lot to Chukunu, because certainly they're a great unit, and in mass numbers they can actually deal with horsemen. But there does come a critical point when you just have a mass of horsemen that it becomes too much, especially if you get a surround. There aren't that many spearmen just yet, but Demu might be looking to tech into that. He's getting a lot of villages on gold, looking to get those arrow slits and placements in the hand cannon slits in the outposts. Got to be careful here, Krakeny, not to dive too quickly. He doesn't have necessarily the critical mass of numbers that you'd want. I mean, he's starting to get there, though. What's kind of exciting is the featuring the Kyro Siphon, burning things to the ground. Only one so far. But I think where this becomes exciting, by the way, is that whilst there is an economy deficit, Krakeny has pumped a lot into the military, and there is that military diving in right now. The horsemen hiding in the stealth forest, maybe looking to take out a couple of those frontline units with those longbowmen first. There's the triumph ability once again. If he takes out the spearmen, the Chukunu will be exposed. He needs to get on top of them if he can, but the hand cannon slits on the outpost will definitely be doing great work for the Jushi's legacy. If we can take those the outpost down, rather, with the Kyro Siphon, that will certainly help things. Only one, though, so far. Longbow's getting good value on the back line. Horseman numbers, though, are very limited, and whilst they do counter the Chukunu, technically, apparently, someone said, Chukunu numbers now is very scary. Krakeny, I'm not sure if he holds in this position. He's diving in a little bit more. Has a couple of ringing guards, not ringing guards rather, the Limitane. But the reason why I like this addition is it might seem a bit counterintuitive because they're kind of spearman line units, but they actually drop their shields, which whilst it does reduce their movement speed and their attack damage, it actually reduces the damage taken by ranged units. So the Limitane can tank a little bit, but I mean, when you've got this number of Chukunu, it becomes difficult. Does take out that second outpost though, which is actually pretty decent considering it was upgraded. Yeah, now this is actually looking a bit dicey. The Chukunu numbers have started to really become overwhelming for the Byzantine army, and Krakeny has to head back home. Chukunu moving their way across the map, and all of a sudden, Demu can breathe again. I've got to say, the pressure was great there for Krakeny, but that pressure almost starting to fall, and the concern for him is, well, Jushi Legacy might be looking to pressurize him now. One horseman still getting value. We'll be taking down the outpost. Now Demu does have a good ability to rebuild this meditation gardens. Get his economy back and running. Safe and sound. Krakeny, though, keeping the pressure up with a couple of horsemen. Bear in mind, he does have 3 town centers, right? He's not that far behind on economy, so things are still up for grabs for sure in this game. I love this kind of detail by Krakeny, by the way. It's a very big temptation when you have a lot of aggression early, just to keep pounding your head on that game plan and not have anything behind it. But Krakeny has that presence of mind to actually get town centers to scale that economy. It's something that's overlooked a lot in the lower levels of play. It's not something, obviously, you'd expect from this level of gameplay, but it's just a nice bit of detail to comment on, especially if you play Age of Empires, to think about, like, yeah, if you do an all-in or semi-all-in push, just don't forget, it's not the only way to play the game. You can transition to a bit of economy behind it, just in case it fails, or doesn't necessarily completely destroy your opponent, which is actually kind of difficult to do at times. Gonna get more raiding here with the horsemen in the south. Again, the Expeditore has really paid for itself, that's for sure. He's killed 52 villages, 53 villages and counting. And it's really kept up in that economy. Speaking of the economy, that has translated into the castle age though for Krakeny, and while Demu's going to get there a relatively similar time, the Golden Horn Tower will give him access to mercenary units for free. Longbowmen coming in 2 minutes. Mount Lu Academy coming out for Jushi's legacy, and be nice to get some of those all-important upgrades. Imperial officials going to be moving a bit faster as well. That's going to be boosting up that economy, no doubt. Wait, how many... do you know what I would love to have seen? How many villages that horseman's killed? I feel like he's been riding around a long time. But now that we're now in the Castle Age, it could be a bit of a battle for the relics. I gotta say though, the army there for Demu is looking scary, and the eco too. Look at the food and gold count. Yeesh. He's getting those monasteries. He's also gonna get the Temple of the Sun, going for the Imperial Age. It's kind of crazy, right? Like, that's what happens when you get... that's what happens when you have an economy that suddenly gets access to gold. Pump it out into the Imperial Age. Things have just gotten really hard there for Krakeny. He's going to be out-teched. And the military numbers looking solid, right? Of course, we know this. We've got the 2020 vision in the game so far. Again, more villagers being killed. I gotta say, in some ways, it probably feels a bit rough. Killing 59 villagers, but still feeling behind. It's got veteran Chukanu now, which actually, incidentally, I think came after the tech up. It's just kind of funny. No messing about today from Demu. Got some cataphracts, which I like the addition of. They'll tank quite heavily against the Chukanu for sure. But now the Imperial Age is in. If this becomes Elite Chukanu, yeah, which it will in 10 seconds, I'm not sure if even the cataphracts can hold on against this number of Chukanu. We are now heading to that phase, though, where things become a little bit difficult for Crackety. His opponent is in the Imperial Age. He's stuck in that Castle Age. Now he's got two options. He could look to try and sit back home and boom with a standing army. But it looks like instead he's going to be aggressive with the cataphracts and the longbowmen. All villagers coming out there for Demu to go to gold. That could have been a pick off there by Crackety. Didn't notice it. He's going to go a bit further past. And, well, there's quite a lot of Chukanus there. He's getting the important upgrades. Demu gets a trample ability there, Crackety. Runs right through with the cataphracts right on top of those Chukanu. He gets a good trade-off, but the trouble is there's a lot more units coming in there for Jushi Legacy. From the back lines, the spearmen dive in, take out a couple of cataphracts. I'm not so sure if Crackety has enough. A couple more cataphracts do ride in. There's a lot of Chukanu, and the Chukanus are being upgraded. They just got the incendiary arrows upgrade. He's also getting that third attack upgrade for the archers and the ranged attack. And a couple more cataphracts coming in from the back line. Uses the trample ability. A really good effect there for Crackety. More come on in, and well, there is a monk there with the relic. You can see actually a cataphract in the background, taking up a couple of those villagers on the gold vein. That's a bit of a problem there for Demu, losing a lot of villagers, bleeding through them. Trouble is for Crackety, he's still behind on that villager count. Might look to snap that monk, and he does in the end. Monk drops the relic. There's a lot of Chukanu. There's a cataract still coming in, one or two of them. A couple of horsemen being sprinkled in as well. But the trouble is the palace guards. If they get on top of those longbowmen will be chopped to pieces. But still, a couple of villagers being idled, having to go back onto gold. And cataphracts are all but gone. This is an issue for Crackety. He has to retreat now. He's down to 19 military versus 58, but he has killed 67 villagers in total. But where does Crackety go from here? The trouble for Crackety, in that last engagement, he lost a lot of his standing army. He's adding in a couple of Limitane, which I like the idea of. Obviously, they can use that drop shield ability just to soak up a little bit more arrow fire, but down to 11 military. This is where things become really dicey for Crackety. He's got to build up an army just to be able to defend and hold. He's got exposed villages on the front, does get another cataphract on the gold vein, ripping through those villages, which is really nice. Does he have a trampled ability? Has used it already. And we're now going to see a bit of an aggression here for Demu. He's actually going to come in with the palace guards leading that front line. Chukanu on the back, and these villagers actually won't get the outpost up in time. They have to flee the area, and he's going to be struggling to get gold here, Crackety. Going to have to move over to the right, but palace guards, look how fast they are. They're getting right on top of that, chasing them down. Going to sacrifice a few villagers just to get the others away. But he's got to find a way to counter those palace guards. There's a lot of them. Possibly some siege. He's going to go for mass cataphract for now, which will do pretty decent against the Chukanu and the palace guards. The only concern is these are elite palace guards. Crackety still in that castle age. The army moving further forward now for Demu. He's getting control of the game. He's going to camp on the production buildings, you feel. This is where things become really tricky for Crackety. He's building up the army mass just before he engages. Uses the trample damage again and the triumph ability from the Imperial Hippodrome. And he's going to dive right in, but there's only 3 or 4 of them. And those palace guards will tank on the front lines with the Chukanu ripping through everything else. And well, Demu's going to move back for a little bit. Maybe looking to get some rams, possibly. That could be the beginning of the end for Crackety. We'll have to see what he can do. He does have the town centre down in the south. And he is keeping up with the villager count. But the trouble for him is the military count. 75 versus 5. Crackety, if you can find a way to hold on. Maybe try and get a keep or somehow. Get some stone. Maybe trade it in using the market. He's got to find a way to hold on. Because this is looking to be a very dangerous army. Coming in for Jushi Legacy. Also getting the Yuan Dynasty. And also Military Academy, because that's going to be incredibly important. Look at the bank of resources there for Demu. Almost 2,000 gold in the bank. Plenty of villagers mining away. And what that means is if Demu rushes in with his army, he can replace it in a heartbeat. Now, Byzantines are obviously very, very far off that Imperial Age. I don't think he can really afford it. He's having to spend the gold that he gathers on units. And now he's off of gold once again. Crackety going to be struggling without that gold income. And Demu does have 2 relics in the bag already. Cataphracts diving in once again. Trample ability. Now we should be able to trade decently well, but He's going to lose a couple of those cataphracts on the retreat. Loses 4 of them, and that's super expensive. Crackety hasn't got the army in numbers to take a meaningful fight, and Demu's making him pay for that. Does have the 3 outposts, does have the mangonel emplacements inside them. Palace guards, I don't think he's got enough palace guards here, Demu, but he's going to keep those villages idle. That's the main thing. I think Demu overall will be happy with that trade. Like, he will lose those palace guards, but he's kept those villages idle there for Crackety, stopping him from getting gold, which is exactly what Crackety needs right now. Only about 400 in the bank. Only 100 or 200 coming in per minute. Now down to 0 practically. There it is. And village is going to be idle on the olive groves. This is where things become really challenging for Crackety. Hasn't been able to muster up the army numbers. Did lose a couple of cataphracts earlier by trying to delay things and delay the attack. But I'm not sure if it's going to work. Villages on the wood line. They're going to be massacred. 73 villagers. He did kill early there, Crackety. But now his villager kill count on him is going to be increasing massively. Demu camping on everything. Cataphracts there and longbows for Crackety, trying to jump on top of this. Has spent all the resources he can in terms of gold. Quite a bit of food and wood in the bank, but he's just not able to keep up with production. A couple of lance collector added in, which is certainly going to help. And well, all of a sudden, Demu's army is not looking as strong, although he does have a couple of elite Chukunu going around the back. Going to be taking some arrows from the TC fire, but still, he's keeping a lot of villagers idle. The cataphracts coming out in good numbers. How he afforded that many, I don't know. Crackety is back on gold again. The mango emplacements have been helping him. Oh, wow, that's going to be a massacre there on that gold vein. I mean, to be fair, though, Demu won't mind. He's almost at 122 villages at the moment. And he'll be fine with that, as long as he gathers that gold. But again, 3 elite Chuganu going to be keeping the town centers idle, villagers. And that's the key bit of detail. Does have a decent number of army units here now, Crackety. Somehow managed to pump them out. As we head into the 33rd minute of the game. Is there a way back for Crackety? Possibly. His villager count isn't too terrible. Did lose quite a few in that last attack, but he still does have a 93 villager count. And Demu doesn't have all that much food in the bank. He's got 3,000 coming in though, and it's just purely because he lost the army, but he's going to replace it in a heartbeat. 62 military on the field once again. Here comes a swarm of palace guards once more. Going to try and torch things down, but the cataphracts and longbowmen might have something to say about trample ability. Doesn't get used just yet there for Crackety, but he's going to be fronting that palace guard army pretty well. Going to use the lance connector to try and rip them apart and maybe go on the villager count. There it is, diving in, taking out a lot of those villagers on the gold vein. Demu, he's found another source of gold soon. And he's going to move further. He's going to farm on the front lines, forward farms for the win, but the cataphracts might get on top of that. The trouble is, focusing on the villagers, right? It allows the palace guards to slowly chip away at those cataphracts and whittle down those numbers. Behind this, Demu losing even more villagers down to 118. He's lost 90 in total. Crackety losing quite a few himself though in the game, that's for sure. Palace guards still in good numbers, 63 miniatures to 29. That's kind of what you feel is the big difference in this match. Now going to in place, we're going to be helping against the palace guards, but the palace guards do climb on top of those longbows, coming in hot from the northern part of that hill as well. And on the west side, he's burning through the olive groves. That's not what the Byzantines would want. The forward farms once again, the villagers being put to good use. He needs that farming transition, he needs that food here, Demu. Despite 3,000 food, he's struggling to keep up production, but it's just how much production he's got there is incredible. He's just spamming out units. Take a look at that. Trouble for Crackety. He's down to 6 military. I'm not sure if he can hold the next wave. Doesn't have gold really, so he's going to have to focus on horsemen. And maybe archers. I mean, it's really tricky, this situation, right? I don't think he's going to be able to afford too many more cataphracts. Palace guard's going to go on the olive groves in the north, and this attack might kill him. He's got down to 77 villagers, Crackety. He held well as best as he could. He did a great job with the initial aggression, but now it's being pressurized, and that keep going up will solidify that defense, but he doesn't need to. Demu, he takes the game on Golden Pit. Crackety came in hot with a great aggressive play by the Byzantines, but it just wasn't quite enough.